It takes more than slapping a Q on it to be a great software engineer. This is episode 345 of the Soft Skills Engineering Podcast. I'm your host, Jamison Dance.
I'm your host and lover of Qs, Dave Smith.
Soft Skills Engineering is a weekly advice show about all the non-technical things that go into the technical field of software development, where sometimes the answer to a problem is a Q, and sometimes the problem is a Q that someone else put in.
The answer today is a Q. The problem tomorrow is a Q.
Yes.
The same
Today's
Q.
answer is tomorrow's problem. That's probably a good summary of software development.
It totally
honestly.
is. It totally is. The villains of tomorrow are the heroes of today.
Yeah.
And the villains of yesterday, the heroes correct. You know, it's like, oh, what a mess I've inherited.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Those words will be said about you.
This mess was someone's solution.
To another mess. Actually, to the same mess you're about to create. So, you know, it goes in cycles sometimes.
Hang on, I had to type it into Twitter so I could remember that pithy quote and then...
Which one?
Claim credit for it. I don't know. Something about today's solution to tomorrow's problems.
Yeah. The hero developers of today are the villains of tomorrow. Oh man, that just really it actually
dramatic.
Hurts my soul to think that out loud, because I know it's true, and I know I've been that. Villain.
You know what? It's sort of like how that younger generation is always full of irresponsible, disrespectful whippersnappers, and then you get, you're young, you feel like your elders are wrong. You get old. You find out
you were wrong.
The youngsters are wrong.
the new youngsters are wrong.
Yeah, but I had it right.
Oh man, no. You know what I find out? I'm just every 10 years I look back and I'm like, I was such an idiot. That cycle has not reduced in intensity.
It's a sign of growth,
I guess. But what
were you okay?
I'm still an idiot.
20 years ago, were you like way more of an idiot than 10 years ago?
I was like super idiot 20 years ago.
Okay.
10 years ago, I was like pretty serious idiot. And so now, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm an idiot.
And now you got to figure it out.
Yeah. For now. The present always feels so right. Okay. Enough pontificating. Shall I thank our sponsor today?
Yes.
This episode is sponsored by the amazing Compiler, an original podcast from Red Hat discussing tech topics big, small, and strange. Go check out Red Hat Compiler anywhere you listen to podcasts. Maybe even this very app that you see on your phone right now.
Maybe they're listening on their computer.
Okay.
But probably not.
Using
Can't think
some
of the last
application.
time I listened to a podcast. Yeah, that's okay. Okay. I'm going to thank our patrons. Thank you to these folks who contribute at the level where we shout them out every single week. Thank you to Anthony Ungaro, Kent C. Dodds, Oladapo Fadye, Monkey Face Emoji, I Love Mavis, Santa Hopar, Jonathan King, Connie Lee, Braytek Tatkowski, Nick Cantor, Ira Chan, Jenny Kim, John Grant, Gnandon Hooten, Ohio.
I looked that up last. I looked that up. We got a pause, and
why?
I know how to say it now. Hold on, let me.
Oh, how do you say it?
Stand by. I'll tell you.
This is what our listeners come to see and hear.
Okay. I thought I knew how to pronounce it, and I just found a YouTube video that is clearly a bulk created YouTube video for like thousands of words with terrible pronunciation.
Some text-to-speech thing pronouncing it for us.
Okay, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. I stalled the show for nothing.
That's fine. I will forge ahead. I can't remember where I stopped. Kyle Boss, Braden Keynes, The Stochastic Parrot, Valentin at Datafold, Cody Sale, Noah Fraser Logue, Will Angel, Travis Sanders, Ringa, Andreas Reales, Alice Joss, Nick Hathaway, Craig Motlin, Owen Shartle, testingisdocumenting.org, patreon.com.au, we're hiring, and Philip John Basile. Man, feels good that that's a long list to get through. Thank you. We appreciate your support. It keeps the show going. It pays for expenses like putting it on YouTube where you can find us. Some people like to catch podcasts there. If you want to see me swivel in my chair for half an hour while I talk.
Yep, that's true.
And if you want to join this group and help support the show, you can go to softskills.audio, click support us on Patreon. Any amount will get you an invite to our Slack team, and any amount at the tiers specified on Patreon that I can't remember will get you to have us say words.
That's right. The more trolling, the better. All right, shall I read our first question?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this comes from an anonymous listener who says, I have around 14 years of experience and was recently promoted to a head of engineering role. I am now leading an engineering department of around 75 people. I've become increasingly hands-off with coding, and it's been at least 2 to 3 years since I wrote code regularly. My role is completely hands-off technically. I'm questioning whether this is the right role for me. I want to be more hands-on, but I worry my skills are now so rusty that I'd have to start over and spend all my spare time learning to code again. Do you think it's realistic to get back to a hands-on engineer role at this point? Have you seen it done successfully before? And does walking away from this leadership role make it harder to potentially take on other leadership roles like CTO in the future? I have some good news for you.
What is it?
I'm 7 years ahead of this person in experience, and I've done exactly what they're asking. If it can be done.
Yeah.
That's like I was reading my own LinkedIn profile or something.
Yeah. So you're running a big engineering group. I guess big is relative. An engineering group, roughly the same order of magnitude as
same number of digits.
This question. Yes.
As 75.
And then you went into a individual contributor role.
Yeah. So I had done people management for a couple of years, and then I went and became an individual contributor at a mega tech co for 4 years, and then I came back into the people management, and now I'm a CTO, doing some people, some technical. Yeah. So can it be done? Yes. We have one data point.
It is possible for at least one person. How was that? Were you still writing code when you were before you went back to being an IC?
Not exactly, but yes and no. So I almost never wrote production code, and I was never on any critical path for delivery of code for any of the teams. But I would write, and continue to do this in my other people management roles. I would write what I call supporting code, which is like not in the product, not customer facing, but gets things done internally. Things like moving data around, creating dashboards that help us manage teams, things like that. And that kept my skills sharp enough that I wasn't completely distant. Although I must admit that when I get back into code nowadays, I write code a little different than than people do. And I look at it sometimes and I go, oh, like I'm starting to see sample code that's unfamiliar to me in languages that I know well because the languages have moved, So
yeah.
But it did keep me sharp enough to pass an interview at a mega tech co. But that required a lot of hours. And I think that's probably the answer to this other question is, am I going to have to work really hard to get back into an IC role? For me, yes. I spent many, many hours prepping for that. And I think you probably will have to as well. But that's kind of true even if you're an IC, though. But more so if you're not.
Maybe I'm 7 years behind this question asker then, because I haven't. I've been in IC, then moved into people management several years ago. I haven't moved back to IC. I don't know if I ever will.
That's because you're so good at the people management, right? Like, or you just love it,
or because I was so bad at being an IC. There are all kinds of explanations.
Oh, is the Peter principle at play here?
Potentially, yeah.
Wait, no, you have to be good as an IC to get promoted out of it.
Yeah, that's true. So I was writing a fair amount of code for a while still at the beginning of, not the beginning, but earlier. I've not written a ton of code recently, but I still do read a lot of code.
Yeah.
And that's a different skill, but it feels relevant. It's mostly to contribute to design discussions, or if I can help resolve a disagreement where they need like a tiebreaker or something like that. But I have tried to write code, and I've noticed it is a lot harder for me to just sit down and like bang out a solution to a problem. It's harder to get started.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, there's like a 4-hour process to get your environment all set up and get everything running. If I could just make this one line change, I'd be fine. But it's like the 4 hours leading up to that are the killer.
Oh, mine isn't even the environment stuff, although that is a killer. if I don't, wait, no, I have written code at this job. Yeah, I've written a mild amount of code, but it's
Mild as opposed to spicy.
Yeah, it's not often enough that my workflow is like down pat with going through our CI and testing it locally. And
I think people underestimate the amount of effort it takes to stay on top of all that stuff as a developer. Like that's a lot of your day, just keeping everything running on your machine, and like you said, the CI and stuff like that. There's a lot going on.
For me, even a bigger barrier than that though has been just like the brain space of sitting down and writing the code to solve a problem. I feel like it takes me. I need to take like a running start at it, where before I felt like I could just decide I'm going to write some code to do this thing and then do it. And now I have to sit down and think I'm going to write some code to do this thing and kind of like attempt it a few times. Yeah, I don't know. I can feel myself certainly being less fluent with it. But what is my point here? I think I could still get an IC role if I wanted. I do wonder how senior of an IC role would I be able to get. I feel like I have a lot of kind of like organizational and design and kind of the non hands on the keyboard skills have been exercised heavily, but hands on the keyboard is a big deal if you're an IC. And I think that part is certainly weaker. So I do wonder, like, would it feel like kind of a demotion or something instead of a role change?
It certainly did for me. When I went from an IC, from my role, I was a director of engineering. I was managing probably like 40 to 50 people. And then I went to an IC role where I was a tech lead on a team of like 8 or 10 people to start. Mm-hmm. But I was making a lot more money. And so I just didn't care.
Yeah. Maybe that's the key.
It totally was the key. In fact, that company, that was their whole strategy, I'm convinced, is take people who have experience dealing with much bigger problems and much bigger scope and give them small scope and small problems, but pay them much more, and your problems will be solved very well.
Small problem, big money.
Big money and big experience for the problem. Yeah.
So what about, does it make it harder to take on a leadership role like CTO in the future? I haven't been through this personally, but my gut feel is no. I feel like it'd be I think it'd be a nice thing, not a requirement certainly, but it'd be a nice thing to see that like this person is still in touch enough.
I actually think that an ideal career for many people is bouncing back and forth between leadership and individual contributor every few years. And I say that because in my experience, the leaders that I enjoyed working for the most are people who really had good technical chops and they could really converse with me about my day-to-day work. And I thought they could probably do a better job than me, And so, and I'm not saying that's me right now for my team members, but I did appreciate that a lot. And so being able to bring that, I think, is great. But also having, it's like, look, I didn't just step into the people management thing yesterday, right? Like I've got some years under my belt. So I'm also reasonably skilled there. So I don't know. I kind of like that. And I don't see any reason why you can't make a very successful career doing that.
I want to shout out episode 195 when we had Charity Majors on as a guest, I think. Is this the right episode?
If not, Charity will be deeply offended.
She has a blog post about that very topic called The Pendulum or the Ladder. Talks about that kind of in-between space where you maybe swing back and forth between senior IC and sort of line level manager as a really nice happy place for a lot of people.
Yeah, cool. Way to growth hack our audience by making them listen to 2 episodes instead of just 1. That's really good.
And maybe I got the episode wrong, so you'll have to listen to like 100 episodes to find the right one.
You could binary search it, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
log base 2 of 345, whatever that is. Too bad they're not sorted by anything.
We'll never know.
Yeah. So like perfectly legitimate career track. I don't think you'll have any problem jumping back in. Probably will take some work, and I love it for you. And I think you should give it a shot.
Yeah, especially if you know. If you know, like, this is what I want to do. I mean, that's a pretty powerful reason to do a thing.
Or if you know,
I kind of,
I don't want to be a people manager anymore. That was kind of where I was a little bit.
Yeah,
the first time.
I kind of wonder how I'd hack it, but I definitely enjoy what I'm doing. but yeah, the motivation of like, I don't like this, I want to do the other thing is that seems like a good thing to follow. All right, should we read our next question?
Yes, please do.
This is from a listener suspiciously named Hypothetically Anonymous.
Yeah. Sus.
Hypothetically speaking, let's say you were pretty sure layoffs were coming to your company, even though they say they are cutting costs everywhere else so that they can avoid layoffs. Now, let's say that hypothetically, in anticipation of this, you took some interviews and received an offer from a company that you believe will ride out the upcoming economic downturn fairly well, and hypothetically, you accepted the offer. Would you go to your manager and offer to take a voluntary severance, and in doing so, would you let them know you had something else lined up, or would you leave that out and present it as just taking your chances while your severance checks were coming in? Thanks for doing what you do.
Do you remember
You're
that
welcome.
episode of The Office where Michael, what is it? Someone comes in and says, I quit. And the boss says,
and he fires him.
You can't quit. You're fired.
Yeah.
And then calls his boss to brag about how good of a job he did. And his boss says, Michael, now we have to pay them severance. That's what I thought of here.
Yeah. I worked as a high schooler at a dry cleaner, and I had a boss there who the only way I can explain their behavior is to assume they were trying to get fired to collect unemployment.
Oh boy.
So some people do this on purpose, I guess. I don't know.
I think there's a name for that. I think it's called fraud, but in space law, we have a different word for that.
And we won't tell you what it is.
Well, it's not pronounceable over human audio. So even if I said it right now, it wouldn't come through because the MP3 encoding can't encode it.
Well, there's no air in space, so you can't count
Exactly.
on sound.
That's right.
How do you pronounce a radio wave?
That's right. I mean, radio waves, if we're talking very primitive, of course.
So, what do you think?
Should you go for it? This one is interesting. I think it's very timely right now because if your company is saying out loud that we're cutting costs to avoid layoffs, I think there's a good bet that layoffs are coming. Not all the time, not every company, but I have been, right now, every tech company I know of is cutting costs. Like, I'm not aware of any that are like, yeah, we're firing on all cylinders. We're going to hire 100 people this year. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
And so there's a good chance it's coming. But if someone on my team showed up, and by the way, I'm not doing layoffs, just so you know, but we are cutting costs elsewhere. Just kidding. But if someone on my team came and said, I've accepted another offer and I'd like you to fire me so I can get severance, I would say, enjoy your other offer. Your resignation has been accepted. But I would not pay severance.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of severance is to bridge the gap until you get your next job.
I thought part of it was to not get sued too.
Yeah, yes, it's to convince the team member to sign a non-disparagement or non-whatever agreement, whatever the terrestrial law is on that one.
That makes sense to me. And yeah, what incentive would you have to say, okay, we'll give you a bunch of free money?
Yeah.
But is it unethical to say, is voluntary severance an option without saying I have another job lined up?
I mean, some companies will throw that out there, but and I've heard of it where they say we're looking for volunteers to leave the company. We'll pay you XYZ dollars. But this sounds like the situation is that offer is not on the table.
Yeah. This is them fishing for it.
Yeah,
or this would be them fishing for it.
How do you? So first of all, let's just say that you just want to go after the money and ethics be darned. You're not into twoism, like our previous episode, which I can't even remember what that means, but I know it was sound philosophy.
Yes.
Then maybe you could go and ask, hey, listen, we're trying to cut costs. And if you're quite certain you're going to go take this job, you could say, look, is the company considering a volunteer severance, volunteer layoff plus severance package as one of its cost-cutting measures? That's a question you could ask, I think. Jamison, do you agree?
If you didn't have another offer lined up, or if you did?
No, if you did. So you've got the offer in hand, you're ready to go, Or if you didn't, either way, I still feel like that's a question you could ask. Ethically, it's a little bit on the edge for me.
I have like an endless supply of guilt. So I feel like I would reach into that guilt well, and I'd feel bad about trying to extract money from this company. But I could see how someone could think like, I don't know, if this is going to help improve their situation, then you're exchanging money for value. So
Yeah, they're purchasing your signature on an agreement as well. Don't forget that. And your signature is very valuable. Also, don't forget that.
It's like an autograph. Think of it like an autograph.
That's right.
You're selling them an autograph. I don't know. I know that if I found out this is what happened, I would be so mad at the person
as a manager.
who did it.
Like,
yeah, if I was like,
already had a job and you asked for severance.
Yeah. So I think this feels slimy to me.
It definitely has a slimy vibe.
But
I'll state, I think the kind of the underlying philosophy here is you're trying to get money unearned. Like there's no effort from you on this one. There is that's wrong. I don't know. I could probably justify this by saying I'm willing to sign an agreement that says I won't hire your people away. I won't disparage the company publicly, et cetera, the things that companies want you to sign if you'll pay the severance. Of course, then they'll just be like, take a look at your employment contract that you already signed.
Yeah, you probably already signed one of those. But you wouldn't have double signed it. I want to say I think this is wrong, but still leave room for other people to think it's right because I like to waffle, I guess.
So let me ask you this question, Jamison. I'm going to put you in a moral dilemma.
Yeah.
Let's say you opted not to go after the severance play, and you just took the other offer and you did what normal people do, which is quit your job and then go get your other one, and then start your other job, no severance. What if you found out a week later that this company, your former company, offered voluntary layoffs with severance? Would you feel bad that you hadn't taken advantage of it or waited the week?
I mean, yeah, bad in the way that like it's not like I could have known, but I think I would say, gee, I wish I had free money. Oh well.
Okay.
But it feels. I think the argument for it is you're providing value to them. Maybe they're up against some really tough choices, and this makes those choices less tough. Like, we have to cut 5 people, and we really think they're all incredible.
And we'd like some volunteers, please.
Now we only have to cut 4. Maybe not. Maybe this isn't the person we would have chosen to cut, but oh well.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just feels bad to me.
All right. Well, I mean, I say whatever Jamison feels is probably right.
Yeah.
I've lived my whole life this way and I haven't regretted it yet. You should.
I think
I'm really glad Jamison hasn't recorded most of our phone calls.
I think the fact that you have an offer in hand that you've accepted already is what feels bad.
Yeah. I agree.
I think if
you've already chosen,
had kind of like, if I'd kind of like started to look around a bit, maybe I was interviewing, maybe this would feel less bad, but it's like you're providing them with the illusion of a choice when really there isn't a choice.
What if you had been severely underpaid for the last 5 years at this company and you gave your soul to them, but they just would not give you a raise, and you feel like this little severance pay is making it right?
Then you're probably not working at a place that's going to give you voluntary severance. If you've been severely underpaid.
That is a good point.
I don't know. I still think it is kind of shady.
Okay.
But I don't know. Maybe you have like dire financial needs that you're trying to meet or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just gonna waffle here and as I do.
This is like the first time you've just clearly said I don't know in 345 episodes.
That cannot be true. I feel like
you waffle.
Say that every episode.
You
then
waffle.
I end up on one thing.
I guess sometimes you usually waffle. And then you just go with whatever I say.
That's how I think about it too. But I waffle until Dave says his thing, and then I can agree with him and sound like, oh,
But
safe.
Sometimes
Can agree with Dave.
sometimes you'll give guidelines and say, well, if this is important to you, do X, and if that's important to you, do Y. But in this one, you're just saying, I don't know. It's very unusual for you.
Okay.
I can tell you
get back on familiar ground.
Okay.
I think you shouldn't do this.
Okay.
No equivocation, no extenuating circumstances, always and forever. Don't do it.
Can I throw some what ifs at you?
The least waffly I will ever be. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I didn't have any. I
Please.
just wanted to mess with you a little bit.
Reality is complex, and
Yeah.
you're listening to most likely strangers give, let's say, off the cuff advice. So what I want to say is I think this is wrong, but nobody can get mad at me.
Okay. So I think it's wrong, but the most important thing to me is not to hurt anyone's feelings.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Which is actually the ultimate
moral
philosophy.
fiber.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's what I got.
Okay, well, and I'm saying go extract every penny you can out of this company, even if it means they go out of business and all your coworkers lose their jobs as a result.
That's another thing. Like, maybe if you extract expensive severance, maybe more people will be affected by layoffs than if you had just left to go to your other job.
So do your team a favor and just leave and stop getting paid.
But then again, yeah, like, I don't know, is it your job to do a favor for your company? I
No.
think some folks would argue no. They give you money in return for services.
That's right.
No, I'm waffling again. Hang on. Undo all that. Don't do it.
Okay, don't do it. So the conditions of your recommendation are: if you already have a job offer, which you have accepted, it would be wrong to ask for severance or to take severance in that condition. However, I will say, if they just happen to fire you before you told them that you've got the other offer and severance is part of the package, I would take it. I just wouldn't go. I wouldn't go ask
if it were
for it.
offered. I agree.
So to you, crossing the ethical line is asking for it when you already know you have a job lined up and secured.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. You have a beautiful mind.
Thank you.
I love seeing inside Jamison's mind through the words he says.
I appreciate it. If you want to see more inside my mind or hear firm advice full of backbone and strong moral fiber, what do these people do if they want that, Dave?
Go to softskills.audio and click the Ask a Question button where you can fill out our form. And we have to say thank you to everyone who fills that out every week. We love you. We love your questions. Keep them coming. Just try your best to put Jamison in an uncomfortable ethical dilemma.
I live in an uncomfortable ethical dilemma. Thank you. We'll catch you next week.